All right, welcome everyone to the Youth Justice Oversight Committee meeting. I don't know, you've probably heard that today is National Burrito Day, right? But what you might not have heard is that today is also National School Librarian Week, which I like better than Burrito Day. Yeah. So as we go around and do introductions today, I would love to hear either what's your favorite book or what's your recommendation for my next book club book. So let's start on who wants to start. All right, go ahead, Mary Kay.
Well, my name is Mary Kay Hudson. I'm with the Office of Court Services. Today is my last meeting with this group as I am taking a new position, but it's been great. I just wanted to get that out of the way. I am not a huge nonfiction reader, fiction reader. I am a nonfiction person. And I think one of the books that we have used within our office and that I have used on a personal level, again, it is nonfiction. It's more on self-help professional development, is the Clifton Strengths Finder, which has changed my life, from in various ways. And I think our office has been able to use it in ways to help bring out individual strengths and contributions that they bring to the team. So it is very similar to other personality type tests, but it really focuses on what you excel at and how you can excel even further in those areas, and then how you can work with one another. So that would be my recommendation if you're not familiar with the Clifton Strengths Finder, to do that. It's very personally rewarding. So thank you.
Why don't you share where your new position, where that will be?
So my new position is with a national organization called All Rise. They are formerly known as the National Association of Drug Court Professionals. They do tremendous work in the treatment court arena. They've also expanded into other justice reform initiatives. And I will be taking their position as Chief Operating Officer. And it's the work that I've done in Indiana that has allowed me to take this next step. And I'm sorry to leave this role. I love this work. I've been a judicial branch employee for my 30-year career. This is new, but I'm very grateful to have had the opportunity to work with you all.
This is a huge deal for Mary Kay, huge deal for Indiana. For any of you who've worked in a problem-solving court, NADCP, now All Rise, is the place you go for training, technical assistance, questions answered, all of those things. So Mary Kay's going to be fantastic in that role. Magistrate Foley.
Carolyn Foley, Allen Superior Court. I'm a third generation volunteer at my local public library. So for me to say, oh, this is my favorite book is kind of impossible. But I would say I'm kind of a huge history reader as well. And so for anyone who's not a history reader, anything by David McCullough, really well written, easily accessible, and it'll get you hooked.
I'm Shannon Chambers. I'm with Johnson County. I read a lot, but it's mostly fiction, crime, mystery, stuff like that. Probably James Patterson is my favorite, though. Good writer.
Hi, Nicole Phillips with Bartholomew County Probation. I read a lot, and one of my favorite authors is Kristen Hanna, and her new book, The Women, is really, really good. So it's a historical fiction about the nurses that served in the Vietnam War.
Morning, Terry Decker, with Department of Correction, Division of Youth Services. I'm also a James Patterson fan, and reading for work, it's always about leadership and how to do better, or researching about what's best for kids. So anything.
Hi, Emily Krauser. I'm Chief Deputy Director of Programs at Indiana Housing and Community Development Authority. As for books, I really enjoy like middle school books. And so I would recommend Alcatraz and the Evil Librarians.
Guess it's my turn. Brian King, Ripley Circuit Court. As far as books go, The Obstacle is the Way, written by Ryan Holiday. It's a book about stoicism. So.
Joel Winnicky, Indiana Public Defender Council. I've got about 4 books started right now on my own. The most recent of which was a book from Charles Applestein, a master's of social work called No Such Thing as a Bad Kid. And I'm very intrigued by his strength-based communication with those kids who need help. But my favorite reading experience is about 5 days a week, reading out loud back and forth with my 11-year-old son. We're on book 6 of the Harry Potter series.
Awesome.
Great.
I'm sorry, I'm late. Supposed to say who I am?
Yeah.
Faith Graham, judge in Tippecanoe County. And my favorite, but I don't have a favorite book, but I have a favorite series. It's the Janet Ivanovich is the author. It's the Stephanie Plum series. Oh, yeah. Hilarious. She's a female bounty hunter.
Sounds good. Matt Alsma, professor, IU School of Medicine. And when I was in middle school, the school librarian turned me on to Lord of the Rings, which was really great when I was in middle school and turned me on to reading for a long time.
I'm Amy Richardson. I'm the magistrate at the Huntington Circuit and Superior Courts. I too, like everybody else, enjoy reading, but I would say the book that really got me hooked and love reading was Scarlet Letter.
Devin McDonald, Indiana Criminal Justice Institute. I don't really have a favorite book. I like historical fiction, so I've read a lot of those by varying authors. So.
Good morning. My name is Nancy Weaver. I'm the Director of Youth Justice at JDAI at the Indiana Office of Court Services. My current favorite book is Until We Reckon by Danielle Sered. It's fantastic. It's about restorative justice and who owns justice. And I would highly recommend it.
Good morning, Tracy Fitz with the Indiana Prosecuting Attorneys Council. I usually read biographies, but I just started Erasure by Purcell Everett, which is a fiction, but it's a really interesting look at race in America, and it's really good. He's a great writer.
Mark Fairchild with the Commission on Improving the Status of Children. Also not one favorite, but I do like my classics, so I'm going to go with the collections of Dickens, Dumas, and Hugo. I don't know how I got involved with social justice after all of that. But also for anybody who has not read Hugo yet, just be prepared to skip like 300 pages describing the catacombs underneath Paris and everything he writes. So fair warning.
Good morning. I'm Leslie Dunn, and my favorite, I also love to read, but my favorite recent book I read is called The Lake House by Kate Morton.
Hi, everybody. Nick Parker filling in for Cirilla Blackman and Judge Dolahanty today. So thanks for inviting me to the table. I've been hanging out with my 2-year-old nephew, so anything by Dr. Seuss has been my favorite recently.
And I would say that one of my favorite authors is Eric Larson. So if you like his history, he's nonfiction, but he reads like a thriller. So the thriller readers may like him as well. The Splendid and the Vile is his most recent. I think he has another coming out shortly. So recommend any of that. All right, we'll start with just an announcement first before we get to the minutes, and that is Juvenile and Family Court Conference will be June 12th through 14th. So we'll have a couple hundred, probably maybe 300 juvenile and family court judges, trial judges attending the conference at that time. Mark and I will be giving a joint update regarding the Children's Commission and YJOC. So if there are items or topics from your work groups that you think is critically important for trial judges to know, please tell me that, and we'll incorporate those topics into our presentation so that that word gets out to the trial judges. So we've got about 30 minutes, I think, between us. Is that right, Mark?
45.
45, okay. Even better. All right, and if we could have those before May 31st, that's our deadline to turn in the materials. So let us know by the end of May what your topics are and what would you like us to tell trial judges on your behalf. Action item, minutes were distributed from the February 1st meeting. Do we have any edits to those minutes? How about a motion to approve? Okay, looks like we've got a motion over here. Is that Shannon?
Yes.
Okay, and a second, Nancy?
Yes.
All right. All in favor, aye. Opposed, nay. All right, minutes are approved. And we'll roll right into grants update. And Devin, I don't know if you want to give an update on what you're going to be doing shortly.
Oh, sure, yeah. We'll start with that. I think I've mentioned it before, but I'll be leaving, and I think she's online. So I'll introduce her now for those of you that don't know her as well. But I'll be leaving, should be next weekend. Not this weekend, but the following Saturday for 4 months for some military training, to be a JAG officer in the National Guard. So I won't be at any meetings for a while. I'm relinquishing my co-chair duties to my chief of staff, Jade Palin. So she'll be attending on my behalf for anything for the next several months. She's should be online. She said she was. I don't know if she is or not.
I'm here.
Oh, there she is. We can't see her, but she's online. She's obviously more than capable of filling in for me. But a little update on that. So, Jade, do you want to take a second and just introduce yourself?
Sure. You guys can hear me, right?
Yes.
Okay. I'm Jade Palin. I've been with the Indiana Criminal Justice Institute since 2015. Before that, I was at a private nonprofit organization that worked with youth and families, particularly youth justice involved kids and families. So kind of in my wheelhouse. And I'm looking forward to attending the meetings.
Thank you. As far as the grant update goes, where we are now, the current grant or the grants that are currently, I guess, in process, I should say, had some contract slowdowns we ran into with some fiscal stuff on our end. So we finally got that sorted out. So those should be going to contract, I would say, within the next week. So if you had one that was approved previously, you should be getting your contract very quickly. So good things on that. But apologize for the delays. We kind of had some issues with requisitioning. That doesn't matter. Doesn't mean anything to you guys, but it's kind of the procurement action process of it. So ran into some delays there. Current grants kind of have two numbers. So we have a little over 30 applications in the system. I would say truly with that, we have about 20-ish, 21-ish, somewhere in there that are actual, probably like unique actual applications. There are several in there that are duplicates. We had a couple submitted that were canceled already. So kind of sorting through that, but kind of where they are in the system, they're not complete yet. They've not completed budgets. They've not submitted anything. They still obviously have another week to get that done. So probably better update later on, but that's kind of where we are with those now. Preliminary numbers, around 10. The behavioral health grants are the largest that we have for this round, which is good. 5 or 6 diversion grants and about the same number of community alternatives grants. We've got a couple that they've applied for all 3, which is good to see. But again, dollar figures I don't have yet because they're not done with their budgets and got everything submitted yet. So I can't update on that, but good. I guess, pretty decent showing. With that, webinars have been the initial webinars that we had, I guess, early March now were pretty well attended. Good questions, things like that. Those were recorded. They've obviously kind of tapered off as we've had them, which is to be expected. Folks have gotten questions answered, attended the first couple and got everything they needed. So good to go with that. I think, as we continue to do this and move forward, I'd be willing to bet that's probably about what we're going to see every round. Around that 20 to 30 mark is probably what we'll see, which is fine and good. I mean, not everybody's quite there yet with getting everything done. So we'll see, the planning grants that are in process now. Obviously, those will probably come to fruition later this year. See applications for those. So, but not disappointed. Wish there was more, but definitely not disappointed with the show. So.
Questions for Devin?
Someone.
Yep.
In terms of the issues that y'all had with the contracts, do you feel like that's going to go more smoothly this second round, or do you feel like there's going to be the same kind of delay?
No, that'll be much better going around. Yeah, moving forward. So got everything sorted, so it's not an issue.
Question.
Yeah.
I know at grants meeting, I mentioned that there was a lot of confusion around grants, and maybe you guys could do like a 1-page explainer, so it's.
They're still working on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that was one question you had about. People were just confused about what can we do with those, what does that entail? So
Yeah, we're still working on that.
Any other questions for Devin? I want to welcome Jade, so we'll welcome her to future meetings, and also shout out to Renee White, who's behind me here. She's been incredibly helpful, so give a wave, Renee, so we can put a face with the name. So she's very likely the person that's answering questions directly with the counties, and the Criminal Justice Institute has also offered, and we've gladly taken them up on their offer to attend the Trial Judges Conference, the Juvenile Judges Conference in June, to have a table to talk directly face to face to the judges in attendance. So I think that's going to be wonderful for judges to have that opportunity while they're already there to get their questions answered. And they'll also be preparing kind of a one sheet tips for grant writing on these particular grants and maybe common errors on applications. So we're doing our best to get the word out and saturate our trial courts so that we have other takers hopefully going forward. All right, legislative wrap up, Mark.
All right, so I know it's April and we're all probably sick of hearing about legislation, so I'll try to make it a little bit on the brief side, but I do want to start with just a recognition too of a member of our screening assessment work group and a member of the Children's Commission that passed away this past month, Senator Jean Breaux. Many of you, I'm sure, have had encounters with her in the past, and her spirit of civility and cooperation and making sure things, just like all the work we're doing here, keep moving forward and keep doing good things for our state is definitely one to be remembered. I know I worked with her on a lot of maternal health issues and public health issues. So again, she stands for a lot of those good things. So we'll be missing her. We are looking at, for the Children's Commission, we're going to be renaming our paid internship program in her honor as well, just as a small recognition of that contribution. So sad news, but she of course will be remembered. For other things going on at the State House, of course, our big one that was directly related to this group is getting the advances on the grants. So that's going along well, and we were happy to see that. But I'd point out that a lot of what happened during session this year really falls more under a general theme of looking at how we are cooperating and communicating with parents and caregivers. A lot of things going on. I won't go through them line by line, but making sure that we're having the best services available and we're having the best communication available. So things like bills where we're talking about facilitating better communication between whoever the temporary caregiver is of the child and the birth parents and having a positive relationship there. Looking at the concept of safe baby courts and the best way to implement something like that in the state of Indiana and focus there better. And making sure that when we're having the need for concurrent planning, that's a smoother process where there's good communication between all the entities and the courts involved. So there's a lot of appetite to say, things always start at the beginning of session, maybe a little bit more contentious, where it's one side wanting to pull one way and the other wanting to pull the other. But I think they really ended in a good place of saying, what we need to do is just make sure we're always have the best processes in place for our families. Regardless of what the end outcome is going to be, that we continue working well there. So that was heartening, as much as a short legislative session can be heartening for somebody like me. But it was good to see that discussion really being in a pretty pragmatic place at the end of the day. One item that I do want to highlight specifically towards YJOC and one of our work groups that I really volunteered one of the chairs for, and the other sitting next to me, so I'll be cautious. But a big item that came up this year that didn't see a real firm resolution was looking at truancy as a status offense. And how we're going to be addressing that in the state. So post-COVID, of course, we saw some numbers that went up very high during COVID, perhaps understandably, really stay at that rate for at least the immediate couple of years afterwards. So we've had a hard time returning in those cases. So the legislators had a lot of talk about possible preventative programming, possible more punitive approaches. And really, at the end of the day, the bill that did pass landed very similar to where we're already sitting at as far as what's allowable. But discussion I had with the authors on that was very much that this is an example of something that needs a lot more study that's indicative of a much bigger issue going on with a lot of our families. And we did volunteer that through the Children's Commission and through the YJOC, that we would be able to study further and maybe come up with some recommendations. I always look for the opportunity for our groups to be able to have a product that we can deliver, and that we can add that service to our legislators that are really looking for, like, we're exploring how to do this. We're not the experts on how to do this. So we'll be talking at our next commission meeting on the 17th about the possibility of the Children's Commission and YJOC, most likely through the diversion work group, coming up with some recommendations. As I look to one of the chairs sitting next to me that has not elbowed me, for the record, so she's tacitly approving. Okay, of what we can be doing in that space and how we can recognize some of the different options that are out there. And I could even see that flowing in through some of the grants that we're talking about as well, and some model programming out in that direction. So just an idea of coming out of the legislative session where we're kind of watching for places where it makes sense for us to dive in and say, hey, we can be of service there. We don't need to do a quick turn interim study committee. We can really dig into this issue and look at all the factors and come up with slates of recommendations this year, maybe next year, and so forth, as we look at addressing a very, very complex issue. So excited to see where that one leads for us. Otherwise, I'm open for any questions on legislative affairs from this year, but I think we did it in a fairly good place overall.
Questions for Mark?
Stupid, but what is a safe baby port?
Yeah, it's a newer concept that's existing. They're looking largely at a Chicago-based model of it, but for they call it Safe Baby, which is a slight misnomer because it's for children under the age of 3. And the idea of having more of a specialized case flow, especially knowing that when a child's that young, we want to keep things expedient and moving on a good process and pace, but also knowing that the families involved might have more unique and specific needs. So that's still something that's being discussed about how the courts are going to look at how does that nest into our existing problem-solving courts model, and where that's going to fall in that. But the idea of saying when we have very young children involved, that we need to have the right skill set and the right understanding of the unique needs of that situation in place. So it's a newer concept for Indiana, but there are some national models that we're looking at how to integrate.
Mary Kay?
Magistrate Richardson, I would just add to that, it falls under the problem-solving court statutes as it exists today. And in concept, it could be considered a subset of a family recovery court, one that works with the infant to 0 to 3 population. I know we have a number of courts that currently focus on that already. And so I think the sort of the trick is what constitutes a safe baby court. I think that the idea of the expediency of the services that are available, the comprehensive assessments, and that was definitely the intent of getting those services to that population more quickly, and the full extent of the services. So I think there's some discussion around our office for the certification side of things, but also some acknowledgement, I think, from the Department of Child Services, not to speak for them, but that all of those services, there may be an assessment that's done and there's a need or a basis for receiving those, but it's not always as available as possible. So it's a little bit tricky. It's a wonderful concept. And so we'll be working on it in the future.
Other questions for Mark? Nancy?
About, in terms of the diversion or truancy, the human justice and processing the task force of the Children's Commission as a subcommittee, I see other chairs. And that is through the objectives that we did. Is that something, do you anticipate the commission giving the task force and then subsequently the subcommittee a more kind of, hey, work on this more? Or I'm just thinking about how we want to, I know that they're looking at all status offenses.
Right, right.
Do you feel like there's going to be a more targeted ask of that group to move that objective?
I think so, but I think it's kind of a tricky thing because when we look at truancy, because we know that that's at a high watermark right now as far as some of the rates that we're seeing, but I think it still opens the door for that broader discussion on a lot of other status offenses too. So yes, we'll target that specifically for I think this next round, and look at how we can cooperate between the two groups to do that. But we'll be having more discussion on the specific sub goals for that for sure.
Other questions for Mark? All right, thank you, Mark. And next I'll invite to the podium, Michelle Goodman for a report.
Thank you, Judge Kenworthy. Good morning, everyone. I'm on the agenda today for a point of information, more or less. I am here in my capacity as an Office of Court Services staff member who assists the state Justice Reinvestment Advisory Council and assists the local Justice Reinvestment Advisory Councils. Say that 10 times fast. And to submit reports that are required by statute. So Indiana Code 3538 2.72 is required statutory reporting that the locals and also the Division of Parole Services to report to JRAC information about the populations they supervise on electronic monitoring, so both adult and youth. The statute is very specific about the types of things it wants collected. And so we've been working on that report. This 2023 was the first calendar year for that report. That report was just recently approved by the state JRAC. There's an annual report requirement that they do in addition to collecting quarterly data. That annual report is required to go to Legislative Council, but it also goes to the Judicial Conference Board of Directors. In preparing the report and looking at the information that was collected and the scope of the information collected, JRAC had asked that this commission also be provided with this report because it does contain supervision information regarding youth on electronic monitoring, to the degree that it helps this group or its work groups look at any top level information and then decide what types of action steps might be appropriate, policy help, development, things like that. So that's the purpose for providing the report. I emailed this to everybody this morning. I'm sorry, I thought it went out earlier. That was my fault. But I'm just gonna give you a high level overview. You can certainly reach out to me via email or phone and ask any questions about the information that's there. The report is very specific in terms of the elements that it collects and is very detailed, and each element collecting something that's very discrete. So in the report, you'll see some topics, but then there'll be a lot of narrative information to define the scope of what was being collected or asked, any caveats or things that need to be kind of explained more, because it is kind of complex about how folks move in and out of these supervision conditions. Some of the elements of the report collect information about individual people, some of it about events or static things. So they're not necessarily interrelated either. So that's the other important purpose. We collect information about fees. That's not necessarily about people, it's about fees. So there's events that happen, things like that. So each question within the report is very distinct. But there are some key things that I think kind of give us some top level information that might help all of us identify areas and opportunities to move forward. And the conclusions and next steps of the report do outline areas where more research, more in-depth look would need to be conducted to get any kind of more details or understand deeper what types of responses or what types of approaches might need to be looked at or examined. So this is more of a descriptive report than anything at that level we have today. We did collect information though about both youth and adults, but we also had the ability to collect things regarding predisposition versus post-disposition supervision. So those things are bifurcated in the report as well. There's a couple of key takeaways that I think just to kind of highlight some of the things you might look at in the future. In looking at predisposition electronic monitoring versus post for youth, there are more youth on predisposition electronic monitoring than post across all 4 quarters of 2023. We report everything out by quarter unless the degree to which we can provide an average is available. And in looking at the numbers of folks on electronic monitoring supervision, we were also able to ask folks to report highest level of offense in certain offense level categories. So we can look to that level as well. So when we looked at the average juvenile youth population across the 4 quarters by offense category, most of the youth that are on electronic monitoring are on for what we call all other crimes in our definition, which means it's not substance abuse related, it's not motor vehicle, property crimes, or crimes against a person. So those are the youth that are most likely on electronic monitoring. If it's predisposition, the second level of category would be crimes against a person. When you look at post-disposition, the second level category is crimes against property. So looking at these things, we based it all in the Indiana Code and how we can capture those things. So all other crimes is anything that's not in those other 4 categories, basically. So they're defined by code. We asked the agencies to give us that information. We also looked at the highest level of offense for those youth as well. So across the 4 quarter average, the most
categories that were supervised on electronic monitoring for predisposition youth were misdemeanors. And the second highest level was level 6 felon type crimes. For post-disposition, it actually was the same. So that was interesting to know that there wasn't very variation there. But we did report the number of status offenses that were also on EM. So you guys would be able to look at that. Another interesting component, looking across the averages for the 4 quarters, we were also able to look at the counties and agencies that reported. So we looked at the top 10 counties based on the quarterly averages for both post and predisposition youth. Out of that analysis, 6 of the counties in both pre and post are the same, but the degree and duration of what they use EM for is different. So just because you're the highest in predisposition doesn't mean you're the highest in post. But there's 6 out of 10 that are on both lists as in the top 10. So those are some kinds of examples of things you guys would be able to kind of look at and glean from the report and kind of dive in a little deeper. I know working with the data committee and other plans, there might be opportunities to partner on some of these factors and look ahead. So if you have questions or anything about the report after you have time to review it or how it may help you or suggestions, please feel free to reach out to me.
Questions for Michelle?
Yes.
Was probably in the report, what was the source of this? Was it like a survey? Was it-
No, it's a required report. So the way the reporting process is set up is there's a list of instructions and definitions. And all of the supervising agencies who conduct the electronic monitoring supervision report to their local JRAC. And then those things are compiled and provided to us. So they had discrete things they had to answer. We partner with Core Technology for those who use SRS, so we could pull data from there and help encapsulate those numbers from those supervision conditions, and then check on different things that aren't showing up in the report. Staff and the agencies have the ability to go in and see why they aren't in the report before they submit it to us. So it's agencies that are doing the actual supervision or reporting to us. There are, in the adult side, probably mostly, there are some contract agencies. They're also required to do the same reporting to their local JRAC. So even if it's a contract service, they're still required to provide the same data and information. Yes, sir.
So is there a distinction on post disposition, electronic monitoring, where there's a probation violation or a disposition modification that's pending, or is it just all lumped together?
So it's pre and post in supervision. We talk about termination events is probably where we would see where we would have folks who have been violated, who have been on a condition of electronic monitoring. But yeah, post is anybody who's after that adjudicative state. It would all be together. So but the termination section would tell you a little bit more about how many folks completed that condition of supervision. Because remember, youth can have multiple conditions, different durations of when those conditions apply. But then we ask how many had like technical violations versus new charges in that section. So that's where we would kind of look a little bit deeper at the data about why are they still on or why did they leave. Anything else?
Where will we be able to find this report?
So I sent it to you by email this morning. There was a miscommunication on my part. So you have it in your email box. But we also have all of our reports from the Justice Reinvestment Advisory Council on their webpage under the report section. We publish the quarterly reports that are submitted every quarter. There's a similar narrative to what this annual report looks like for each quarter. But we also produce an Excel file that has the information that was provided to us from each of the local JRACs or the Division of Parole Services. So if you needed to look at certain counties, look at your county compared to other counties your size, you could do all of those types of things on your own. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Michelle. And I would ask, let's keep this on as an agenda item for next meeting. That way people can digest the report. And if there are additional questions or conversation, let's have that next meeting as well. All right, we're going to move into updates from work groups. And so we'll start with Dr. Alsma and Mary Kay regarding data, which has been doing a lot of awesome work.
This is your last time.
Oh, thank you, sir. Madam Chair, may I remain seated?
You may remain seated.
Thank you. So we did send out a copy of the data work group report. Thank you to Lisa Thompson, who provides tremendous staff support to the work group. The group has met twice in the recent past, and the work group the work group report describes our activities. Specifically, the last couple of meetings, we have spent some time taking a look at current data collection efforts or efforts that would shed some light on where we are relative to data collection on the youth justice side. So a couple of presentations by Dr. Alsma and his team who have been doing extensive work on the ADAPT research project. And what lessons learned they have taken from data collection and the variation in data collection practices in the counties, what that means for the accuracy, completeness of the data. All of that is a window into what we will be getting into when we start looking at this at the state level. And then Nancy Weaver did a presentation on what some of the JDAI sites have been doing in a similar vein, where they examined 5 case processing points, looking at data collection practices. I think it's safe to say a very similar experience in that there is a lot of different practices among the counties and who is collecting information and how it's being entered into the system. And while, we certainly recognize that there needs to be some flexibility at the local level, we're going to have to strike that balance with consistency, especially if it's data points that we are really, really concerned about collecting at the state level. And then thirdly, Colleen Saylor from the Office of Court Services gave a presentation on the type of support that the Court Improvement Project team, her and Lindsay Pettit worked closely with the child welfare courts across the state to develop the court improvement data that's published on an annual basis, and that is in compliance with federal timelines in child welfare cases. So Colleen presented to us that process, how she provides supports to the counties, what support is happening or what support is necessary at the local level to be able to capture this information and enter this information. So there's definitely some similarities in what we would hope would be kind of an effort related to youth justice data quality, completeness. There's some distinctions in the CIP process, and that the CIP currently collects everything post disposition, meaning the cases come to completion. Whereas I think for us, we are probably as equally interested in the start of the process and everything in between. So those were really good illustrations for us. For those who are less involved in the data collection work day to day, really can capture an understanding of when people say it's complicated. I think it is very, very complicated. And I think the more that we as a group can continue to advance the work, but also articulate how complex this is and how much support our trial courts need. And again, striking the balance for uniformity and consistency with acknowledging variation in local practices as well as different resources at the local level. So all of that was really good for the work group to consider as it's looking at delving into future work, which is essentially executing the plan that was outlined in the data work group's report that was adopted last year. Devin, you may see in your grants management system that the Office of Judicial Administration is applying for a grant.
I have not seen that.
Yes. So we have a grant that will be going in. We don't OJA does not neatly fit into any of the grant categories. There is not a statewide, so this will maybe be the first. But we are submitting it under the diversion category to support the work of the Youth Justice Oversight Committee data, as well as to help us comply with our data reporting requirements under 1359. The reason we chose the diversion is because we have to do a diversion report on an annual basis, and we are not equipped to do that for a variety of reasons. But the grant we are submitting would be for conducting the pilot project on data collection, doing the data poll, some analysis, doing some development work in either SRS, Quest, various things, and even possibly developing new applications. Oh, one of the other presentations that we had at our last meeting was Lisa Thompson did a presentation on the adult abstract of judgment application. That's an insight, because there was discussion around creating something similar for juvenile dispositions. And so Joel, to your point about what do we know about dispositions on electronic monitoring, whether that was as a result of a violation or a direct sentence or a direct disposition, we could possibly have more information on that if we were to develop a disposition application. So lots of things happening with the data work group. All of it's hinging on whether or not we get a grant. Hint, hint, Devin.
I can't say yes or no.
We suspect you have some influence, but no, I think the data work group it's a really great group. It's a very heavy lift. It's very important. And I think everyone appreciates how important it is, but also how complex it is. So thank you. Matt, would you have anything to add to that?
Just that you're gonna be missed. Good
Thank you.
job.
Thank
Great
you.
work.
Yeah. She is not going to cry today. I just want to say I was a fly in the wall in that meeting, and I was sort of excited to see that the data committee is looking at things that courts are already familiar with, and how we can sort of build upon what already exists, even to the extent, abstract of judgments. Those are pretty easy to do, easy to fill in the blanks, get those printed out. They're easy to read. And so thinking about that in the juvenile realm, could we then incorporate the disposition findings and make one thing instead of another thing? And I think that would be really doable. But court improvement program, I dare say that some of the judges in the room are familiar with that insight application as well and have to put in those data numbers. So I think this group is making data less scary as it rolls out. And I think that's a really important thing to do. So really, truly excellent work is going on there. Questions for Dr. Alsma or Mary Kay? Devin.
So, Mary Kay, before you leave, one, thank you. It's been a pleasure. I've worked on many, many things with you over the years. So with that, one of the things we're currently working on in JRAC, actually, that we had our meeting yesterday in our race and equity work group. And we had a very good presentation from Dr. Lauder, who's done, I don't know how many projects with JRAC now over the years, but working on basically adverse events. So they're taking adult offenders, they ask them a series of 12 questions on kind of adverse events or things, community ties, friendship, and things like that, and applying that tool. And I'm sitting there and I'm writing down, I'm like, why can't we do this for kids? And then not even 10 seconds after I write it down, she says she has a colleague that has secured an NIJ grant to take the tool that Dr. Lauder is working on, adapt it and apply it to kids. Chris is in the meeting, he can validate this. I was there, he was there, yeah. Yes, disadvantage, sorry, I couldn't remember the word, but disadvantage. And so my immediate thought was this would be incredibly valuable to working with the kids and providing services to hopefully steer them away from their current path. And then Nancy gave me a 17.5-second update on where we are with things like the Maisie. And I think it might be valuable maybe to put work on your plate. I don't know if this is worth it or not, but to maybe pursue that a little bit and maybe take a look at it and see what we could do to update not only, I know we do the IAS. We've got validated tools already. We've got ACEs data. The difference with the adult is that they had to do IRB review and everything. So they do consent. So I don't know if we'd have to do that with the kids. I imagine we probably would, which then it's a whole different ballgame now that you're dealing with kids as well. But is that potentially a data source? And maybe we could work with this researcher, and I forget who his name is now. She mentioned who it was on the call. Possibly looking to have him do a presentation to the race and equity work group as well at the adult level. But is that something that could be valuable to the work that we're doing and truly, how those types of events, those things those kids have done, and in particular, I think about like a behavioral health grant or community alternatives and things like that. If we have that additional information, then you can kind of maybe use that to help tailor a response to the child.
So I would say yes. Within the grant that we are writing in some funding for contractual services around data and data analysis, data support. Hoping to be able to continue and build on some of the work that Dr. Alsma and his team have done. And the interesting thing about researchers is they all run in the same circles. So Dr. Alsma and Dr. Ray, colleagues, they continue to be colleagues, work on projects. Dr. Lauder continues to work on things. So the Office of Court Services is contracting with Dr. Ray on some specific problem-solving work, which will include data quality review, data integrity, helping counties do better about inputting information. Dr. Louder will be doing something similar on the adult side. And so, on a perfect day, we'll get Dr. Alsma, Louder, and Ray all in the same room, and they can all confer. And that's intentional from the standpoint of what we're doing for one population, for one program, one set of services. We should be learning from that and adapting that for the other populations and projects so that so it can make sense to people at the local level so that they're not feeling like they're getting different sets of instructions from depends on who's funding you or whether you're adult or juvenile, so that we can have some consistency in that. So I definitely support that. I think one of the things that is hopefully in our future is our ability to self-fund research, and an NIJ grant is fantastic, but they are incredibly difficult to get. They come with a lot of parameters, and certainly that's for independence purposes and all of those things, but I'm hopeful that through this grant and other future grants, we can really build into our budget data work and research and evaluation with the assistance of these wonderful partners. So yes, I fully support that. I think Chris's conversations will probably feel like they're overlapping quite a bit in terms of what he's talking about, and I think that's a good thing.
Other questions, comments? All right, thank you, Dr. Alsma and Mary Kay. Next up, screening and assessment. Shannon, I assume you're giving the report today.
I am giving the
All
report
right.
today. So we have met twice. We had a February meeting, and then in that meeting, we talked about our recommendations and kind of went back over them and wanted to prioritize what we wanted to do with our work group. In our March meeting, we spent reviewing our action plan, which I can't say enough great things about Michelle Goodman because she keeps me very organized. But she created this nice little action plan for us. And it already filled in some things for us to do. With that, we started discussing kind of key reminders for judges and probation to be in compliance with 1359. We had a subgroup that Nicole did amazing work on a cover, basically a cover sheet for probation officers, intake officers to fill out to communicate that IAS diversion detention tools and detention screening tools, to communicate that with our prosecuting attorneys, our public defenders, our judges, make sure everybody across the board had that score and the recommendation before those hearings. So after much discussion in our last meeting, we tweaked that a lot, made some recommendations, and I believe that got sent out to everybody as well to look at. We also had a subgroup that is working on our recommendation 5 with court technology to update our standard preliminary inquiry and insight so that they will look at building technology requirements to enhance those applications in the instruction manuals and everything. So once we get that drafted, then obviously that has to be presented to the judicial conference committees for approval. So that's kind of a in progress type of thing. When you look at our recommendations and how we prioritize those, we do have one that we marked off as completed. So we're already good because we said that we would continue the work group, and so we got to mark that off. So that was very exciting. Recommendations 5, 6, and 7, those are our current priorities. Kind of where we're beginning our focus. And then we kind of went to our recommendations 1, 2, 4, and 8 are ongoing, kind of going with existing policies and practices, just keep reviewing those. We did request a letter with key reminders for the judges and chief probation officers via the weekly message that gets sent out to the chief probation officers, JDI distribution list, and included relevant conference communication. We did not give you that draft letter yet because it's still being drafted. And then obviously it'll go to Justice Kenworthy to review as well. And I think she has agreed with our my other co-chair, Judge Dowling, to kind of present that and get that rolling with getting judges on board with here's what needs to be done. We did have a presentation from IOCS's Education Division regarding providing some educational sessions to juvenile justice stakeholders. I know the public defenders said they don't get a lot of education on IAS and all of that. So they're looking at doing webinars with IOCS and how we can get those out so they can get that education. And IOCS is wonderful about working with us and trying to get everybody educated that needs to be. I don't think we have anything else really, that we're just kind of working off of our action plan and making sure that those are our big priorities right now. Any questions?
Questions for Shannon? And we're pleased to report that Judge Dowling, Kim Dowling from Delaware County, has agreed to co-chair. She's been an active, involved member of the committee for a while, or work group for a while. So we're pleased to have her as co-chair now. All right, excellent work, Shannon and crew. Next up, behavioral health. So we have Nick filling in for Cirilla and Judge Dolahanty today.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. So our work group met on March 11th. We had 6 new members, which is quite a lot of new members. So Joel was one of the new members, and we had a new co-chair, Judge Dolahanty. So obviously some familiar faces, but we reviewed our June 2023 work group report at the first meeting. We were just mainly taking note of the 2 broad categories of recommendations, which are diagnostic assessments and then the behavioral health plan. So our work group decided to focus on diagnostic assessments at that first meeting, and we kind of tabled behavioral health plan for the next meeting. We're just parsing out what we need to address and what's being addressed by the other groups as well. So the focus of the conversation was just kind of an overview on how and why DOC is conducting most of these assessments, including a recognition that some silos exist in this area. And we could kind of break down these silos with better communication between the stakeholders, and it's like courts, DOC, and probation. We discussed potential to have clear court guidance in the form of like a bench card. And we were utilizing some templates that have been created. And thank you to Leslie for showing us one from the National Traumatic Child Stress Network. So we distributed that to the members. We finished the conversation discussing some of the new roles that could be played by others like CMHC network to kind of help ease the burden on DOC conducting these assessments kind of on their own. And then discussions about the behavioral health plan, again, were tabled for next meeting, but we did discuss the importance of early intervention and some concerns the work group had about kind of telehealth quality and usage, especially in underserved areas. We have not formed any subcommittees at this time or subgroups. However, we will be meeting as a steering committee staff, me and Mindy with the chairs coming up soon. So we might recommend some creation, but right now none have been created. The work group discussed a general plan to meet once a month. So we're meeting again on Tuesday, April 30th here at the Government Center. And we'll just continue to review the 2023 plan and figure out how to implement it. And our chairs kind of gave the group homework for the next meeting, and that's to gather information from other states if it's possible or available. So some of them are looking into other states. And then there's also a NCJ, FCJ information that Judge Graham, thank you very much, Judge Graham, sent out to our chairs. So we're going to make sure to get that to the group. And we'll just continue discussing the bench card idea. I know Judge Dolahanty's very big champion about that and trying to figure out how to make that work in various aspects of that process. And really stressing ease of access and easy to read formats. And that's my report.
Questions for Nick? Other members of the group want to weigh in? And I'll tell you, Joel, you were in demand for more than one work group. So congratulations, behavioral health. You got Joel.
I'm unclear about what this bench card is supposed to include. I would think that the purpose of the diagnostic evaluation would be to leave it to the professional to determine whether and what sort of services should be provided, not adjudicated from the bench. I thought that's something that we were trying to get a little bit away from.
Do you want to speak to that, Nick?
I mean, I can send the notes on. We didn't talk necessarily so in depth about what it would include, but the one from the National Traumatic Child Stress Network is just kind of an overview of the process. So I think that maybe just it's more of like an educational component. Joel, did you have anything to add on that?
Well, I think there's also a desire to allow judges to express what areas they want guidance on in the diagnostic assessment, while allowing the professional, of course, to make, their professional judgment as to how they answer those questions and what additional questions may need to be, asked and answered in addition to that. But I assume that you probably have some key insights that you hope to get answered in those diagnostic assessments that you request, as any judge might have. And it could be, creating a menu of different things that should be addressed and assessed based upon the circumstances of the child.
And Judge King, there's some difference of opinion on what a diagnostic will give you, what information it will give you, and what it won't give you. And so that's the idea behind the bench card, is what is a diagnostic assessment, what kids would be appropriate to send the DOC route, and what kids are not appropriate to send the DOC route. 88, is that the number last year, Nick?
88, yes.
88 kids were sent to DOC last year for diagnostic assessments. And what we heard from the doctor from DOC is that some of those kids were just really not appropriate to be there. And a consideration I personally had never thought about before was the limited resources DOC has in the form of its doctors there. So if they have a doctor who's being pulled away to do a diagnostic assessment with a very strict timeline, they can't then be on the ward to help those kids who are having psychotic episodes and serve those kids who are placed there for treatment and help. And so I personally never thought about that from the bench, and I think that's a very legitimate consideration. Also discussion of maybe pros and cons of diagnostic assessments. So I think this group is trying to get to the bottom of why are kids being sent to DOC, and I think probably resource is a big part of that. That judges are just puzzled and have tried everything else, and this is sort of last ditch effort to get good information. And the other thing is that we're hearing pretty consistently from trial judges that the DOC diagnostic assessments are good. And so they're better than they get from their local service provider. And what could we do about that? Could we have DOC provide guidance on how to provide a good diagnostic assessment and help train up our local providers? So I think at this point we're scratching the surface. But I think the idea of the bench card is to provide a snapshot, a broad overview, so that we try to get kids to the right place at the right time. Judge Graham, did you want to add?
I think it's also helpful for judges to know. Right, yes, helpful for judges to know about who's qualified to do them.
Sure.
Right, I mean, I'll get these reports all the time and is this person really qualified to do this kind of an assessment? Am I getting quality information, or is it just, somebody's intern that has done this? So I think that's helpful too, to know, and DOCs are very good. And part of that, I think, is because the time spent with the child is longer than you. I mean, if you meet with a child 2 times for an hour, how does that let you assess? That's just my thought.
Other question, Nancy?
Should, for the work group, is there alongside what looks like to be a fantastic front end kind of education around when you send and why you send and all of that, is there anything being done on to see what has happened as a result of some of these, particularly with the diagnostic evaluations at DOC? And the reason I ask is because what we hear from local sites is there's a lot of times when a young person is coached at a very high level, secure setting, and then they get the evaluation back and they go home. And so I think it would be valuable to also understand what is really necessary in terms of a secure setting for these young people, and maybe that could be, there could be a piece of it that looks at what's happened in the past few years in terms of the outcomes of the results for the young people. And I just didn't know if that was being considered.
I'll definitely be in touch with you, Nancy. I think it should be considered. And I think that's a great point. Looking at all angles of kind of the process and making sure it's being considered. So I'll make sure to pass that along to the chairs.
Other questions or conversation? So behavioral health has a big task ahead of them, and I think diagnostics came to the top of the list because I think it's probably the low-hanging fruit of the tasks to be done. So new members are very welcome. Expanded the disciplines represented on that crew. So great conversation in the last meeting. I was really impressed with the depth of conversation. So I look for good things to come out of that crew. All right, diversion. Tracy?
Yes, okay, so. Got it to bend. I'm gonna leave it there. Okay, so the diversion work group, we've met a couple times since the last meeting, and we have been working hard on our tasks, which were the diversion resource guide, a diversion program directory, and some support for the grant works group and outreach. So we have created a subgroup on the diversion programs directory, and they have gotten started. Megan's my co-chairs heading that up. We're first looking at some old work that we did under the commission, looking where we had already sent out some questionnaires to counties about what their diversion programs were and if anyone had good programs and what their outcomes, like how do you judge if it's good? So we are going back through that and making an effort to get contacts with counties, better information, maybe some of their MOUs and information about how they funded that and who they're working with. So that we can at some point create a directory that we would consider ongoing where there's model programs for counties who are thinking about diversion, wanting to expand their diversion programs. Maybe they need a truancy program. Maybe they're thinking about what to do with all these fighting kids that we don't really want to bring through court. So we are trying to get that together. That's at its infancy, but what we have really focused on and which we sent out to everyone is the diversion resource guide. And I don't know if people had time to look at this, but we really feel like this is of the essence to get done for our group because these grants are moving forward. People are have planning grants. And I know that the Office of Court Services, as well as my office, has gotten a ton of questions about what they should do, what they should be doing, what do I do now? And we have to remember not every county is JDAI. In fact, most of our counties are not. And so they don't really have the infrastructure or the thought process sometimes about maybe they don't already have a juvenile group together. Maybe it's just the judge and the prosecutor like, well, let's do something. We need some better programs. So we wanted to get this resource guide done so that it can live, we're hoping somewhere in the court on a page online that we can direct people to just to use to go through when they get a grant. We can direct them to this. It kind of goes through what we think their process should be. It covers the laws that they need to know to do this. We talk about how they need to think about data, how they need to think about defining their program goals and parameters. So we just kind of walk them through all of the processes. And then at the back, after all of those things, there are some links to toolkits that already exist because we didn't really want to recreate the wheel when it's been done. So there are various toolkits that they can get on and look at and see which one really fits for them or work through those and working out their programming. We're also going to have links to documents such as MOUs, eligibility criteria, what that could look like for your diversion group, definitions of outcomes that you might want to make sure everyone's clear on, that kind of thing. And then there's just a lot of resources. Also, all of this would be links so that they can use those easily. And then at the end, and we're considering this kind of a living document because we're not just going to set it up there and never look at it again. But as we get newer, different questions, as we get better information, but there are some frequently asked questions too. And if anyone has questions for me or anything they would think needs to be on here that is not, please let us know because we hope to maybe get this going sooner rather than later and get the court to host it for us so that it's out there as a guide for people.
So I heard a question in there, maybe for court technology. Could this document live on the YJOC website or elsewhere?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, I think question for Devin is whether or not it would be helpful to have this on CGI's grants page as well. That
Or at
would-
least link to it.
Much closer to, or link to it,
As
yes.
link to it, that might be the best way to do it, yeah. So please give me any feedback if you have it, or maybe by the end of next week, we would like to get any feedback because we really do want to get this up and running. Also, if you have any paperwork out there in your county, like an MOU document that you think's good or an eligibility criteria list, I would be happy to get those. If you could send it to me or to Megan Horton, that would be great because we wanted to add some local ones. And I think that's kind of been our main, we're just working on getting that going.
Any input on the guide or questions for Tracy otherwise?
I thought it was great, but there was no answer to the last frequently asked question.
Yeah, that's why it's a draft, and Tracy did not have the answer. I was gonna talk to some people, so if anyone knows the answer to that.
That was the test to make sure you read the whole thing, Judge Graham.
There'll be follow-up, but yeah.
Dr. Alsma?
I just want to second, it's great. It's super comprehensive, lots of good examples. So I think the wider you can disseminate it at multiple levels, at CGI, YGOC, locally, JDI, all the rest, I think it's really good.
Yeah, and we did have a discussion about making sure it goes to the judges' conference or meetings and at IPEX conference. And we might even have a table about grants. Also. So there's been some discussion.
Mhm. So I have my first ask for the conference, right, to include this in our presentation?
Yes.
Okay. We received some email feedback from Judge Dolahanty, who thought it was a good read, easy to use from the trial court perspective. He said, although it's not a bench card, it's not too long. So I think that was good feedback, and I concur with that. It's compact. It's not a, 100-page document that's never going to get read.
We didn't want to rewrite her. So
True.
we wanted it to be
Mhm.
something that if a group gets together and everyone's read it, they can flip through, hit the links and
Mhm.
work through their process.
Mhm. Well, and I like that it's a one-stop shop for the applicable statutes, links to additional information if you need it. So I like it. Any other questions or feedback?
To
Devin?
your last question, the answer is, it depends.
Can I make that the answer?
Well, so if you really have to look at the public access law, especially the newer version of it and how it's written and what it is, the local level, the group, is it a person, there's certain things that you'd have to take a look at. So I don't think it's an easily answerable question.
So would it be a difference whether you're using your JRAC or if you just get an informal juvenile group?
So like if you and I just got together and met and talked about it, probably wouldn't need to follow public access law. But if you have your JDAI group or your JRAC or your juvenile justice improvement group or something like that, the answer would probably be yes.
Yes.
So it depends.
All right. Thank you, Tracy. Next up, we have our co-chairs, Terry and Magistrate Foley, on transitional services.
I'll let you go ahead and. Yeah, I was gonna let you, it's okay. I'll start, you jump in. We've been busy. We met again, March 7th. We meet again today after this meeting. We've done some research, and one of the things that Tracy commented on is one of the many things we're focusing on is trying to put together resources so that counties, communities know what's out there, what's available for them. Just as a side note, the number of phone calls certainly more recently that I have with especially smaller counties that I'm trying to give some direction to that they have no idea. That's extremely unfortunate when they're dealing with difficult kids. And I'm saying, have you tried this? And have you tried that? So that's my part-time job. It's okay. I prefer we do it. There's so many things out there when we research that quite honestly, none of us knew about. So we're gonna, Kia has been a heaven send to DOC. So anyway, we're gonna have some subgroups that really focus on that. We'll be developing the subgroups today. Thank you, Judge Graham, for sending us lots of information. The focus on a lot of information, yes, from National Council of Juvenile Family Court Judges. So we'll have a subcommittee look at that as well. We're doing a Zoom focus group with judges. Our first one is today. Really excited about that. We have 3 scheduled to talk about. We have a list of questions, 8 questions, talk about criteria that they use. That's really just a touch of it. When they're considering reviewing jurisdiction on kids and the steps that they go through. So I'm excited for that to happen today.
Can I jump in on that?
Yes.
So what we did to define our focus groups is Terry got some data together for us about the counties that contribute the greatest number of kids to the Department of Corrections. So we've actually contacted all of those judicial officers. We've actually had fairly decent response, not as much as what I was hoping, but fairly decent response. So we do have different times set up. You know, judges, we are never all available all at the same time. So some of these focus groups are going to consist of maybe 2 or 3. Some of these focus groups are just going to be me calling these judges and just having a one-on-one conversation. So our hope is that we're going to get input from all of the counties that are the major contributors so that we get an idea about what their practices are, what their policies are behind those practices, so that we can kind of get a better idea about what transitional services are actually being offered across the state. So that's what we're looking there.
Absolutely. We will have David Reed speak to our group today. He is part of our group as well about the DCS standard for TRP. So that will happen. And we've talked with Sarah Saylor, gave us just a snippet of a piece of what's happening with the mental health group that DMHA and DCS is a part of. So we have a lot of work to do. We have the energy to do it.
Questions for Terry? And yes,
When you
Judge King?
talk about transitional services, I was looking at the statute, and I was still confused. Are we talking about situations in which a court reassumes jurisdiction, or are we talking about situations where you have kids in the Department of Corrections that probably don't really need to be there and can be transitioned, so to speak, out more quickly? For instance, like on the CTP, on the adult side, when you're transitioning adults, like a level 6, level 5 felon, I think is a presumptive transition at the last 90 days of their sentence. If they're F4 or higher, then it's 120 days upon judicial permission. So that's one way, one type of transitioning that I'm looking at or would think about. The other one might be like when you're transitioning from a residential treatment facility, a child, home visits, lengthier home visits, staying for a week and then going back. So my question is this a situation where we're talking about reassumption of jurisdiction, which to me, that's a whole lot of issues right then and there, because I think what you're going to find is the more frequently you reassume jurisdiction on questionable cases, unless you absolutely need to, you're probably going to end up DOCing the child again. That's my thought. So you got to be really careful with that, because I don't know in the long run that that's going to be good or for the best interest for the child or the community. And then the other issue is, when you're dealing with transitioning a child out of DOC, which is what I'm hoping we're talking about, or I would think that that's what we're talking about, but I'm still unclear. What would that process look like? And some of the things that would have to occur in order to make that effective, like continued contact with local authorities, like your probation officer, continued contact with the family, right? I mean, if the family can essentially wash their hands of the child for 6 to 9 months, transitioning that child back into the community is going to be very difficult. And then third, other than those things, you're looking at like, you know, aftercare services. What does that look like? So I guess first, I think I had about 14 questions there. But first, what is it? What are we talking about? You know, I mean, I'm unclear about that. And I think a lot of other judges are probably unclear about that too. And in order to do that, I mean, you would have to set up systems that don't probably currently exist as far as, you know, having contact. I had a situation similar to this where someone once, we did keep contact with the juvenile that was in the Department of Corrections. Nancy may be familiar with this, but the individual was transitioned out, never heard of them again, never did violate, and sends the probation department Christmas cards, you know? So it was a very successful situation. You know, so that's what I'm thinking, and that maybe we're talking about. And when I read the statute, that's what it says to me. But when I hear, okay, well, if we're going to reassume jurisdiction, then again, that's a whole lot of other issues. So is that still up in the air, or am I just the only one that's lost here?
Your account. Which would you like to use? Low number.
I can answer part of that. There are counties now that resume jurisdiction with kids that exit from DYS. And there are, not often, but there are cases that we have.
Make a payment on my account.
No.
We've got some sound from someone online.
Yes.
Okay,
So-
take a peek. Are you a new USAA customer?
No.
Well,
This is
okay.
okay.
Authentication is required for further assistance. To securely access your account, say start over or press 1.
Don't listen. You're gonna give a passcode.
Thank you, Blaine.
Okay. Anyway, we have had situations where courts have pulled kids out. Because, and we have conversations more about that more recently because of the kids that are being committed to us, and oftentimes, I'll just say we're the last resort, and because there's not options for other placements. So when they find something, then they order them out and placed in residential. So from our standpoint, we see both. The committee looks, that's really what you've asked. Yes, we're looking at all of it, really.
Because that to me is a reassumption of jurisdiction.
Yeah.
Which, you know, to me, I think what we're, and reading of the statute is they're saying, well, you know, you need to come up with a 90 days period of time where you need to figure out maybe a step down procedure for the transitioning the juveniles out. You know, and then that kind of goes a little bit, you know, just having read the reports, like, you know, when I'm looking at them and thinking of them from a judicial perspective, I'm thinking, you know, as far as like going back to the abstract of judgment, that could be something that would be on the abstract of judgment where you would say, okay, this child should be considered for early transition. You know, and when judges are dealing with children, I think you're going to find out that most of them are probably going to look and say, is this a child that under no circumstances would I want to release any earlier whatsoever, period, no matter how they did? And most judicial officers are going to say no to that question, you know, because they're going to think, okay, if it's possible to move this ball forward.
Focus group is to get that information so we have a better understanding about the practices across the state. So that's part of the data that we're starting to dig into.
Yes.
And
But
I'm not even thinking necessarily the practice group. To me, you know, as part of that, you know, I hear, but I'm thinking if we're going to come up with something, it's almost, and it almost seems like the legislative directive to come up with maybe a new plan. Is that right? Or a new procedure, process, whatever word you want. Is that right or not? Is that right?
So I think that's one of the considerations, that the difficulty we have right now is that the state looks like a real patchwork. Some courts maintain jurisdiction, some courts reassume jurisdiction, some courts say no, they're off to DOC, you know. hands-off from this point forward. We also have some counties saying we don't have transitional services here, but we hear from DCS that there are contracts for transitional services in every county. So there's just a real problem statewide in that there's no uniformity. And I think then we have issues where you have one child treated one way in this county and completely differently in a different county. I plucked out a couple of things that you mentioned there because I think they're interesting and parallels. So I think the CTP adult parallel is an interesting idea. And so I wonder about something similar for juveniles, structuring that. So just, put that in the back of your minds as you look at the focus groups and see what's going on. And I think the one that keeps coming out for me and is in the back of my head is the parental participation plans. Because in child welfare cases, when a child goes to residential placement, the parent still comes to court and has a plan that they're working on at the same time that the child is working on their programs in placement. And I wonder why the parental participation plans that already exist in the juvenile delinquency system aren't being used to the extent that they could be used to ensure that those parents and families are learning what their children are learning at the Department of Correction, that they have some incentive to pick up the phone when Terry calls them and says, we need to chat about your child. So I think that's probably a theme that came out last meeting, was that we really need to talk to our parents and try to engage our parents more because ultimately child is going home. And if we're not doing our best to make sure that the children have a nurturing, improved home to return to, we're not really going to improve the prognosis for that child's well-being. So hats off to you, Magistrate Foley and Terry. You've got a huge task and I'm excited that you're having it's 3 sessions, right? With the judges?
Minimum.
Minimum,
Yeah,
okay, good.
It is, right now, we've got about 30% of the judge, about 35% of the judges who've responded and
Good.
have signed up for a time slot. We've had others who have said, none of those work for me.
Mhm.
Can we chat over lunch?
Okay,
So we're trying to
good.
get all of this set up. So my goal is to have at least 50% that I'll have
Mhm.
at some eye-to-eye contact or voice-to-voice.
Good. And transitional services meets today at 1 in the building. So anyone who wants to stick around and participate in that conversation is welcome. Any other questions or conversation regarding transitional services? Oh, community transition program. So I'm guilty of using an acronym. I didn't explain. So in the adult system, people coming out of the DOC then participate in a community transition program, reconnect with probation and services locally in the last 90 days or so of their DOC sentence, with an eye toward getting employment, getting on their feet, so that we don't have just a boomerang back into the system because they don't have those supportive services in place.
And Marion County does a CTP program. So Marion County, not all their kids, but a large percentage
Okay.
of their kids. They play with them.
Community transition program.
What does their program do?
Through their juvenile court, they do a community transition program from placement or from DOC?
DOC.
So they do reassume jurisdiction
Yes.
on a lot of
Yes.
this, yeah.
Yeah, Lake County, St. Joe County both have what is more of a TRP. It's very similar. It's not they don't do it for every, but they, in their orders, we know that we need to be in contact with them to let them know. Or, not everybody gets a letter, but with them, they actually put in the orders that they will be considering this juvenile for transition programming.
Mary Kay?
I think looking at the adult side and the adult DOC side for CTP is a good way to get some ideas. One thing to note is that there's a per diem paid by DOC to the counties for the adult CTP. And that typically will go to a community corrections entity for providing supervision. It is probably less service oriented than you might think or hope on the adult side, probably more supervision oriented, focusing on getting employment, maybe housing, those kinds of things. It's been a minute since I have worked closely with the reentry courts, and Chris Bean may be able to answer, or someone else may be able to answer this question. But I think during the CTP period, they are still considered DOC inmates. So I think that is a significant distinction. That is not, the court does not have jurisdiction over them during that time. They are part of the community corrections and still considered part of the DOC. And I see nodding.
Magistrate Foley, did you want to add something more? Okay. Any other conversation, questions regarding transitional services? Nancy?
Just one comment, I think, because I keep hearing Judge King in my head about needing a different system, and I think, and I know that Terry knows this, because she and I have talked about this quite a bit, but the difference between young people coming out of DOC who really need to be reintegrated in their community and do not need supervision and to go back to a court for that versus the ones who need supervision as they come back into. And I think one of the difficulties is that funding of those services. Right now, there's no way to fund like a community-based organization who's going to say, hey, I'm going to take these kids and I'm going to reintegrate, and I work with them to reintegrate. But unless you're under the court's jurisdiction, you can't refer for services in DCS or paid. So I think that is where my mind goes to, and I don't know how much your group is focusing on that, but that's where
One of the things.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm sorry, you have a lot, but thinking about, you really be creative about how to potentially fund that without having the young people under supervision. They don't really need that, because I just think it's right, but the more they're under supervision, the more likely probably somebody's watching them all the time. Gonna get in trouble.
Does that subsection C provide anything? I mean, it says the expenses of administrating the transitional services may be paid subject to available funding from the Division of Youth Services Transitional Services Fund established under Indiana Code 1110-211. Is there funding there or not?
So if a juvenile leaves DOC, and we're gonna provide services for them, I have to place them on parole to do that. The money is tied if the county resumes jurisdiction. So if you have the three that I mentioned, if they're taking their kids back, and other people have done that as well, then they are using services funded through DCS standards. We're done.
And it's I mean, it just went into effect July 1, 2023, but I would think I would assume that since it's entitled Juvenile Transitional Services Support and subsection C says here's where your funding is, then I would think the legislature might say, well, we dealt with that.
It's always been there.
Okay.
And just how much is it? Like what's in that fund? Like how is it, how does money get into it?
It's our budget.
I would just add, when Voices gets kids that are referred to us from DOC, if we have a DCS contract, so they can send like case management or day reporting has been used recently for us. But there's no services. We don't have any way to fund. All of ours is grant funded for the family services, for our housing services, for our life coaching and everything else. There isn't, that isn't in TRP, for example. It is more of that supervision. Let's get a case manager in there and get them employment. Typically, they'll have education coming out of there, but there's no room, or there's no right now funding for the wraparound support that you're speaking of. Or how do we properly transition someone back into the community? Especially when we're talking about getting in there before, like you had mentioned, that 90 days. Thank goodness we have a great relationship with you guys, because we're able to start that conversation, with the families. Is there some repair of harm that needs to happen? Do you guys have stable housing for them to even be welcome back to? What level of education? We're able to get that information, but that's all grant funded. We're a DCS agency, so you guys are absolutely right that there has to be some mechanisms for organizations like mine that can provide all of that and have those partnerships that started prior to release.
Yeah.
There's certainly room for conversation, because I think this fits within the justice reinvestment, umbrella, that if we're spending money to house children at the DOC, would it make more sense to spend less money on a community transition program for the last portion of that that DOC commitment, something like that through services instead of housing at the DOC. So just another idea, but again, hats off to you, ladies. All right, next up, Devin, do you have additional report from grants work group?
Yeah, so we met a couple weeks, well, probably 3 or 4 weeks ago now. Entirely new group from what we had before. There's members, most of the members are there by statute, represented from DOC, DCS, trying to think who else, DMHA, CJI, IOCS. We have a couple representatives from mental health right now. We also added Tracy, representative from IPAC, and then a representative from Public Defender Council, who is not Joel. Figured he had enough on his hands as it was already. But Mike Moore from Public Defender Council, he'll do a great job. Met briefly just to do kind of a introduction to everybody. This is the work group. This is what we're charged with doing, where we are now, where we are moving forward. Next meeting's planned for tomorrow. I think at noon or 1 noon, I think, to do training on scoring the grants. So when those close, then we can get those parceled out. Don't have a like scoring meeting set yet because we don't have that. We don't know exactly how many grants we're going to receive yet. So that kind of plays into when that'll be, how many scorers we have, and so on and so forth. So once we have that information, we can set an additional meeting for that. That's about it, really. Yeah, that's it. The current grants close next Friday, the 12th. And then probably looking to reopen those probably, I haven't set a specific date yet, but probably sometime in June. So, yes.
So this current grant phase that closes on Friday, it's open to planning grants as well.
It's open to everything. Yeah, everything is basically was open the first time. It's just, we're just going to reopen them once a quarter, probably, as we move forward. So planning grants, behavioral health grants, the diversion grants, and the community alternatives grants. Sorry.
Are the current applications up so I can look at them and tickle some judges and say, hey, talk to community and get a planning grant put together?
You mean the ones that were already awarded?
No, the ones that are the applications that have been submitted during this.
Oh, not the ones that have currently been submitted,
Okay.
are currently active. I don't think we have anyone that's actually hit submit yet. If we have, it's 1 or 2, but they're still drafting those. That, again, they have an entire week to finish those up, but yeah.
Other questions for Devin? So April 12th is the deadline, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I put him under oath and get him to guarantee we'll have the money from the first round in a week, the contract?
Yeah.
I haven't reached right.
Well, I'm not sure I can do that. There's a lot of other parts that go into that are outside of my control, so.
I know you guys are working on it, but yeah.
So, I know that there's OJJDP issued a grant solicitation recently, and I assume that that's partners with your office too under the.
Which one? They've got several out right now.
But so you have the juvenile justice.
We do Title
library
II,
group
yeah.
Under Title II.
Yeah.
But so those grants, are you advertising those grants as well?
That one's not open right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, so it's just the state funding that's open right now. Title II won't open. Well, I don't even know because they've not even opened our application yet from OJJDP. So it usually opens in March. Last year, I think it opened in May or June. The way OJJDP is running, I'll be surprised if it opens before the summertime.
Okay.
And that's our application for us to even get money to distribute. So. Yeah, so Title II will be probably later this year at the earliest.
And do you work alongside with the federal YARP grants, since we were just talking about reentry that?
We don't, no, we don't administer those at all.
Any other conversation about grants? All right, like we did last month, let's go around and just, I'll ask each person if there are any other topics you'd like to discuss at this meeting. If there's any agency initiative that you're working on that you think your colleagues here should know about, anything you're excited about. So let's start at the opposite end this time. Joel, you want to go first?
Oh, good. I guess the only thing I should put out there is, we're gonna my agency is gonna pay for John Tool with the Robert F. Kennedy Juvenile Justice Initiative. I can't remember the acronym. To come to a presentation and hopefully a multi-system stakeholder conference on dual status youth. And we were going to engage Judge Gaither, and he's helping me plan it, but he's going to be in the Dominican Republic. So I need to find another judicial officer who is interested in being a part of that because they're proud of their dual status youth work. So I just thought I'd throw that out there because I know a lot of folks in here are in the know about things like that.
That's exciting. That was on one of my list of things to target because I think we haven't used that to its potential. All right, Judge King.
I don't have anything in addition.
Okay. Emily,
Nothing for me today.
Terry.
The only other thing I think I would mention is the detention bed issue that's happening in the state. So, Renee and her team and my team, we met with at least 5 different counties. Southern Indiana lost their detention center last week. Which one? Youth Knox County. So we met with some counties about the possibility of them opening a new detention center. DOC, we have tried to help. I'm full. I cannot just send something your way. For safekeeping, we can't do anymore. So it's something I honestly thought I'd never see in my life. And I feel horrible for counties that are struggling with this. So if you have a detention center, I would almost beg you to help. And otherwise, I'm not sure what to say to them. I hate it.
How many beds did Knox have? Do you know?
Knox had 40 beds. They were not full, but that touched a lot of small southern Indiana counties, a lot. So
Why are they closing, Terry?
Financial reasons, because they were a private entity. So
I just wondered if it's because
too is a problem. They weren't too bad. Staffing's a problem everywhere. When we talk about, what I hear from people is, well, we don't have beds. Typically people have beds, they don't have staff. So they're cutting down how many beds they'll make available, honestly. So staffing's an issue for everybody, but just putting it out there because I took my last one yesterday.
Terry, I'll talk to you after this.
Okay. Yeah, it's not good. It's not good.
Thank you, Terry. Nicole?
No, well, in response to Terry's concern, as a JDI county, it's like, should we advocate to build a new detention center? Because we don't put kids in our detention center, but other counties do. But we don't take a lot of them because our facility is so old that we can't keep most kids safe. And so then when we go to our county council to say, we want to build a new detention center, they're like, well, you don't use it. You don't put any kids in there. So it's like this double-edged sword that it's like, we could put a lot of out-of-county kids in it if we had a newer facility that would keep kids safe. We can't necessarily justify it for our own local kids because we're not putting our own local kids in secure detention often. So it's a difficult conversation.
Yeah.
Shannon?
I have nothing. Thank you.
Magistrate Polly?
Same for me.
Mary Kay?
I think at some point, hopefully in the near future, the Chief Justice will be appointing a replacement for my role within this group. So stay tuned on that. Judge Kenworthy, I'm certain that she and or Justin will be in touch with you and Leslie on that.
Okay.
Nothing done.
Leslie? Mark?
I'll just be very forward-looking. We have started with the Children's Commission, and of course, we'll be partnering with a lot of folks in this room too for next February 17th and 18th. That's President's Day and the day after. We're putting together a large-scale in-person youth engagement summit where we're going to be having a lot of the different groups around the state convening. Actually, in this space, we have all these conference rooms in the auditorium across the way, as well as integrating a youth state house day there. Already have Key on board with that and grateful to have her. But as we're looking at making those connections, I'll probably be reaching out to a lot of people in this room of how we can do that and really have two components for how professionals can support those different groups that are out there doing such great work. And then, of course, the youth themselves, how can we train them and support them about how to use their voice, use it well, and elevate the message that they have. So a little bit off in the future, but I'll be here before we know it, and very exciting stuff.
For anyone who wasn't in the State House on Youth Day, you should go next time because the energy is completely different in there. It's really cool to have all those kids roaming through the State House. Tracy?
First of all, thank you, Terry, for bringing up the detention issue. I had completely forgotten about a couple angry calls I took last week. So it is a problem. It's going to be, I think it's going to get worse before it gets better. Frankly, I know a lot of counties with their heart in the right place who are detaining fewer kids, maybe have fewer beds. I know Marion County's currently building a space with even fewer beds than they have. I don't know how that's going to work out, but yeah, it is a problem, especially for those little counties that, detain, they're detaining one kid a year or two kids.
Right.
And so of course they don't have any way to go to their commission and say, hey, we should build a juvenile detention center so we can staff it for one kid. So it's a problem. But the only thing I really wanted to bring up that's relevant to today is our toolkit. Please get back with me. I want your input. And we do want any documents that could be useful here that you think might work. And any questions that you've been asked that you think might be good in our Q&A. Thank you.
Nancy?
Thank you. I would just put in a plug for, and I can send it to maybe Leslie if she wants to distribute it to this group. We are hosting our JDAI, we do it every 2 years, Oversight conference in October, and we just released an RFP for sessions. And it may be the last time we host a JDI conference in this manner because it may become a larger youth justice conference at some point. But the theme this year is building tomorrow together. And it's about Indiana's kind of JDI legacy and Indiana's future. And if anybody is interested in anything that the work that you're doing with these, I've already talked to Judge Kenworthy about doing some YJOC integration. But if there's anything that you all feel is important in terms of either a plenary session or a workshop around the work that your work groups are doing or your subcommittees are doing, please feel free to submit a proposal for that conference. We would love to have as much integration between YJOC and JDI as possible. We're really very connected.
Devin?
Nothing further. Thanks.
Kia?
A couple updates. We opened Jake's Place in January. It's our transitional housing for 18 to 22-year-olds. It is 10 individual efficiency apartments on the west side of Indianapolis, and we are full already. So it's been really cool to see young people in there. They get full wraparound services, case management, therapeutic services, alternative education, and they can stay rent-free for up to 15 months with us. And so we're super excited to have gotten that open. Last year, we opened Blossom House, which is emergency shelter care for 14 and 17-year-olds, and that is full as well. Other news, I am going to Oakland next week for the AMCHA, I think I said that right, conference to talk about healing-centered reentry and how it can be done well. And so we're presenting with our Title V folks with maternal, child, and health, and Dr. Jack Thurman from IU. So I'm really excited for that.
I have nothing. Thank you.
Okay.
I'll just mention this one really briefly. So we're working with several counties on a project focused on screening young people for suicide and making sure that there is a pathway to care for those youth at immediate risk. So Allen County is right in there doing this great work right now. I think it's a good example of when you screen or ask a question, you want to make sure that there's some sort of service there to help that young person. So thinking about the issue of trauma or adverse childhood experiences, there's a state initiative right now to do trauma-focused cognitive behavioral treatment. one of our colleagues is doing that in Wayne County and some other places. So I think there's a time and a place to ask youth and parents about needs that they have. And then we want to make sure if we're asking the question to have some sort of services or a route to care for them. I think it's just a good thing for us to keep in mind as we're thinking about social determinants of health and housing and food and trauma, that if you ask, we want to be thoughtful about what do we do then and not just ask. So yeah, it's a good job, Allen County.
All right. Well, we started something new this meeting, and that is ordered lunch for those who would like lunch. So will that be in here or next door? Wonderful. All right. So those of you who have lunches, you can grab those and eat in here. And I'll see you again June 6th, if not before. Thank you.
Yeah, Stephen,
Yeah, I never see you.
Right. Very good. They're not.